Learning a language is hard, and it's absolutely worth it. If you're going to live in another country, you owe it to the respect of yourself and to the people of that country to do your best to learn the language.
Build this ship together, searching for a home. Despite the storm that hit us, we're still on board. Dancing in the moonlight, the world just stops and stares. We got no destination, I'll take you anywhere. All the doors we've opened, and all the books we've closed. Words just come together, story that we never told.
Y tunas is prickly pear in English. No es listo ahora. But pretty soon, month or so, yeah, these are gonna be good. You just look like the red ones. I kind of like the green ones. But yeah, you wanna get the spines off of them. So I usually buy them from the locals because, well, they're really good at it. Hola, bien caballo. ¿Tu manaje las vacas? Muy bien. Hola, perro. ¿Qué hay de nuevo? It's like a new restaurant in town. Let's go check it out. ¿Qué tienes? ¿Hamburguesas?
Tengo hamburguesas, tengo costillas y tengo alitas.
Ah, bueno. Solo, ¿tienes hamburguesas solo carne de res?
Sí.
Sí, muy bien. Ok, bueno.
De 4 a 6.
Perfecto, yo regreso. Tengo mordida de una hormiga. An ant bit me while I was showing you guys the prickly pears. So rumors of my inability to speak Spanish have been a little exaggerated, and I thought we'd talk today about lenguajes. People like calling me an idiot for all number of things, and I guess that's just life. It's interesting because in this recent encounter I had with these thuggy police at this illegal, under Mexican law checkpoint, stopped me on the highway when I was out riding with Sandra. And so these guys pulled guns on me. And I had an argument, and you threatening me with armas? ¿Qué es tu problema?
No, policía del estado,
He
caballero.
put the guarda su arma. And I made myself very clear that I thought they were criminals and thugs. You know, people said, oh, you're so rude, because they were being, quote, polite. Last time I checked, the one who pulls a gun on the other one when they've done nothing wrong, the one who pulls a gun on a guy to make them stop in the road when they have no right to stop them, those people aren't usually being polite. A criminal is still a criminal, regardless of using polite words. And that was kind of the message that I was really focusing on. People have to stand up to corruption no matter where it comes. But I thought we should do a video talking about my journey in Spanish, because it's been hard. You know, I remember when we first came into the country, like a year and a half ago, like a week in, I remember I made this little video clip pretending to be a fluent Spanish speaker, because that was my intent, right? It still is. And I was like, you know, making up what I thought sounded like Spanish. I think I have the video, actually. This is how I envision myself speaking Spanish. Hosanda coladando contra gringos. See? And that means nothing, as far as I know. This is more like how I actually speak Spanish. Oh, no comprendo. Gracias. And I remember telling Nathan, this is like a weekend, I'm like, no, within the first month, I want to be communicative, right? Communicative would be, well, communicative. You can converse about most things that you need to. I would say even now, a year and a half later, I might be able to call myself communicative, but I'm on the lower side of communicative. Fluent means you know how to communicate complex ideas. Fluent means you could walk into a courtroom, a lawyer's office, a church, or the public forum and discuss deep and meaningful things. You have apps like Duolingo. I really like Memrise. There's a lot of other ones out there, but the app is really good for learning new words, but nothing beats going out on the street. And one thing I do all the time is I go out on the street. I go out to taco shops. I go get my hair cut at a new place where I know they won't know me.
¿Lo quiere más corto?
No, es okay. Está bien.
¿Está bien así?
Sí.
¿De dónde
Y
viene?
más abajo.
Más abajo este.
Sí, más largo aquí.
Sí.
Perfecto.
¿Usted de dónde viene?
¿Yo? Estoy de Washington, pero tú es de Tequis.
Sí.
¿Sí? ¿Esta es tu tienda?
No, aquí trabajo.
Ah, ok, bueno. ¿Qué es tu nombre?
Cecilia.
Cecilia. Bueno, mucho gusto. Gavin. Dice, hola, mi compadres en Estados Unidos. That's how you get a haircut at random places in Mexico. La más largo con los hombres es más común en Estados Unidos. Sí, no es solo por las mujeres en México. No me gusta, es demasiado, es poco, es color y es poco femenino. Pero los hombres en Estados Unidos es poco extraño. Para ti.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Para ti. Buenas tardes. Hasta luego.
And then sometimes I completely fall flat and I have to pull out the apps like Spanish Dict or Google Translate. These are all good tools. But what about these cops, right? Well, I've done activism for years, and even in the States, I've talked about this so many times. You don't answer a cop's questions. You don't let cops arbitrarily search your vehicle, and why it's illegal, not only under human rights, but under the Constitution, yes, of the United States, but also the Constitution de Mexico. And the Constitution of Mexico actually protects fundamental rights in a lot of ways more than the US Constitution does. And in a lot of ways, from what I'm hearing from the activists here, it's more respected than our Constitution in the USA, which is completely trashed and ignored by the courts. But that's another conversation. The law in both the US and in Mexico is that they have to get someone to speak your native language. It's not that I don't speak any Spanish, although technically speaking, my Spanish is small. I do hablo un poco español. They wanted to harass me and violate my rights. I didn't know them any conversation whatsoever, but even with someone who's a thug, I'm not just gonna fly off the handle. I was a little riled up. That's kind of what happens when people pull guns on you. If they don't pull guns on me, I'm usually quite a bit milder, you know, like you do. I can't believe people. They pull guns on us for trying to travel and exercise our rights, and they were the ones breaking the laws of Mexico. But whatever. Let's talk about the language. And they said, can't believe you've been there a year and a half, Gavin, and you don't even know Spanish yet. And I'm just thinking, ¿tú no escuchas la video? Yo hablo poco español. Yo hablo español todos los días. Yo hablo español en la taquería, en la ferretería, en la calle con la gente. Yo hablo español en general, más y más, día a día. Español es bueno, es difícil para mí. Pero sí, yo estudio mucho español. Me gusta hablar en español. Pero no con criminales. No necesito hablar mucho palabras con criminales en la calle. Con la policía criminales. Molesta mi esposa en la calle. Estas no necesito. Estas. Ellos es malo. Yo no es malo. Yo no faltan respeto por no hablar mucho con criminales en la calle. And I actually followed along for the most part with what those police officers were saying. But here's the thing. When you're in a legal situation, and this is why there's laws that say they have to speak your language. Let me give you an example. I've been learning words like criminal and you're criminals, right? Because, well, you got to be ready to say that to a group of cops. But the difference in words like son, which are a little bit difficult to describe the translation over to English. It's kind of like be, or can also be used as you are. So let's say take son, and I'm like, I want to tell someone they're acting like a criminal or they're a criminal, right? And I point at them and I say, todos son criminales. In fact, I think I did that in this video. So I think I'm saying that mostly right. I'm saying you guys are criminals. I might say, tú es un criminal. Or I might ask, ¿eres un criminale? But the difference is very fine when you're learning a language because words that sound completely different to them sound very similar to us. So it's so easy for me to get confused and say something like, yo soy un criminale. Yo soy un criminale. Which is saying that I'm a criminal, not that they're a criminal. So when you're in a situation where armed goons are overreacting because you're simply trying to pass by and exercise your rights, and they're pulling guns on you. The difference between saying, what is wrong with you, you're a criminal, and shouting out your window, I'm a criminal, is actually pretty significant, guys. Now, you can imagine how if you got into a legal discussion, or they actually were detaining you for something, or they were searching your car, which I wasn't allowing, of course, because I have a right to not be searched without a warrant. Yes, in Mexico also.
I don't know exactly what you want. I'm not understanding what you're saying, but you're not searching anything. I'm not giving you any money. You're not robbing me.
The difference in these words, though, it's actually important. The last thing I would recommend if you get stopped by a police officer in Mexico, first of all, because you're probably being harassed. Second of all, because you don't want to get yourself into more trouble. Speak your native language, unless you're fluent at Spanish, especially if you don't understand the laws. You don't try and stumble through a language you don't understand and pretend to be polite and that you understand it when you don't. No, they're the ones coming to you demanding something. They have to speak your language, not only because it's common sense legally, but because, yes, it is the law in Mexico and in Estados Unidos. It doesn't mean they all have to know your language. It means if they really want to interact with you, they have a requirement to bring someone to you who speaks your language, as it should be. On the other hand, if I'm walking up to a police officer on the street to ask him where the cafe is, I might hope that he speaks English. I might ask him if he speaks English, but I'm certainly not going to demand he speak English because I'm approaching him with a request, right?
Right.
Okay, we'll check it out.
Thank you.
Okay. Gracias. What was your name?
Mario Lopez.
Your English is good.
No, I'm just trying to learn Spanish. Okay.
Practice.
I need more practice.
Buenas noches. Spanish is not actually the one official language of Mexico, despite people saying like, oh, if you're in Mexico, you have to speak Spanish. There's actually a lot of Mexicanos that do not speak Spanish. Probably about 1% of Mexicanos do not speak Spanish at all. They speak a native language only. And then I believe it's like 3% that speak a native language and then also speak Spanish. The guy that makes my chairs and tables is a native speaker. And native languages are languages like Nahuatl, and there's many others. There's actually dozens, I believe like 60 or 70 officially recognized languages of Mexico, all but Spanish being native languages, because remember, this is a nation of natives. The Europeans, the Spanish, invaded Mexico, but they eventually got kicked out. So while the Spanish culture still has huge influence here, and while Spanish is kind of the language of the country as a whole, it's certainly not the original language, and it's certainly not the only language. Even for Mexicanos, if they speak Nahuatl or a native language, they can make these exact same demands. They don't have to speak Spanish. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what a government says. What matters most is human rights. And the common sense we have to enter into that is how to use the laws, the statutes that governments have created, most of the time, which are corrupt, and use those with our knowledge of our own human rights to try and stay out of trouble because we can't fight every battle. There's a lot of words in Spanish that you're going to recognize, and that's really handy. TION words in English are CION words in Spanish, and there's like 1,000 of them. So educación, información, right? Education, information, educación, información. These words, they cross over almost directly. And there's a lot of words like that. Probably, probablemente. And so you can learn these patterns that are often very simple. And I just taught you like 1,000 words with the CION words, right? Something like that. There's a lot of them. But then you have all the filler words, the como and esta and y and tú, and the words that we take for granted, like you, them, they, it, their, we. All those kind of words are hard because there's a lot of them. And so when they're mixed in, you can't follow a conversation unless you know those words. On the street, people are very understanding. Mexicanos do not treat us when we're trying to learn their language in the crappy way that unfortunately in the United States, we treat the Latinos. We look at them like, how dare you not speak English? We celebrate our ignorance and say, no, we're a one language country, which is utterly ridiculous. There's so many languages in the world, and to pretend that ignorance is in itself patriotic is beyond stupid. So that's a little bit about my journey to learning Spanish. I'm still doing it more and more and more. I keep pushing myself, I keep practicing, and for the whole family, it's getting easier and easier. And no, I don't answer cops who are violating my rights questions in Spanish as a general rule, because I might very easily get them wrong and not understand what's happening, and it's not a smart thing to do. It's not disrespectful, it's common sense, and it's the law. And I would recommend that you take that caution in mind as well until you get really good at Spanish. If you get pulled over for running a red light or speeding, you can simply talk in English, and it's on them to resolve the rest. It works kind of like this. Don't go around robbing, raping, stealing, killing, pillaging, extorting, harassing, or pointing guns at people, and you probably are not going to be called a criminal by normal people, only by the government, who is doing all of those things. Aquí es mi compadre de la frutería. And his little boy there. Di hola a mi compadres en Estados Unidos.
Hola.
Háblame con tu tienda.
Ah, muy bien.
¿Cuánto tiempo en esta tienda?
Año y medio.
Año y medio.
Él estaba...
Él es un año, ¿no?
Año
¿O no?
3 meses.
Año 3 meses, sí. ¿De dónde es las sandías?
Es un chihuahua.
Chihuahua. Hacer videos de YouTube por mis compadres en Estados Unidos.
Sí.
Por el niño, ok.
Mira, ten. Écheselos. Écheselos. Corre.
One of my favorite taco shops. But you can't have just one. That would be like cheating. Look at that. That's where the tacos happen. Hola amigos. Buenas tardes. Yo demonstrar la tacos real por mi compadres. Mi pobre compadres en Estados Unidos is sin tacos. They were telling me about their hometown in Jalisco, and they have another taqueria down there, kind of like this one. And then he has a cousin who has a taqueria in Texas in a food truck that does really well. And so it's cool. It's been a year and a half now, but it's still struggling. There's still words I miss, but I can go somewhere and actually have a conversation. And when that first started happening, it was really exciting. Entonces, ¿yo hablo español? Sí, poquito. Y más, día a día a día. The shop is closed, which generally means once you get to that point, it's time to go home. Vamos!
If you could lose all your burdens.
As the sun sets on my pueblita and the distant garbage dump outside of town, I reflect on my life in Mexico, the difficulties of language, and the annoyances of pendejos who always have a criticism.